My parents tried to screw over my dying stepmother, but blew up all of our lives instead. My 17 female stepmother Jane is a wonderful woman. She and my father got married when I was 4, and she's been a rock in my life ever since. My mother was always my primary caregiver, but up until that point, her relationship with my father was acrimonious, and I basically never saw him. Jane was the reason they developed a stable co-parenting relationship, and she encouraged everyone having a good relationship with each other and was always there to support me and my mum when things got rough. Jane was always a really hard worker. When she met my dad, he was living out of a hotel, and my mother was doing everything in her power to keep me away from him because she was petty and angry that their relationship didn't work out. Meanwhile, Jane had a great job, a nice house, helped my dad get back on his feet, negotiated a visitation schedule with my mum, who hated her for a long time, and made sure that my dad sent us money every week because neither one of them could afford an attorney to negotiate child support payments. Jane had no reason to do any of these things. But as I got older, she made it clear that she loved me as much as she loved my half-brothers, who were born a few years later. I even have my own room in her house because at the time that we lived with my grandparents and various boyfriends of my mum, Jane felt that I needed a more stable environment than that. She's like the opposite of the evil stepmother. When I was 15, Jane won a big lawsuit against an airline company and got upwards of $1 million. She used the money to build a sizable trust fund for me and my brothers so that we would be taken care of later in life. Despite having a lot more money, she still wanted to live a fairly modest life, so she paid off the house that she has and has been living there ever since with my dad. Sure, she bought a new car and they went on a few nice vacations, but she didn't blow all of her money on stupid things, which I respected. About a year ago, things started getting really weird. Whenever I saw Jane, she seemed to look sicker and sicker, but no one would tell me or my brothers why, even though I know they knew. All we knew is that she was at the hospital a lot. At around the same time, my mum had been coming around my dad a lot more, acting really strange, basically like she was trying to romance him. Whenever Jane was in the hospital, my mother would insist on spending the night at their house and playing mum to my brothers, which was so weird to me because she never liked them or Jane. She would be the perfect little housewife, and my mum is not like that at all. It was super fake. Worst of all, my dad started falling for it. I'm not stupid. I'm pretty sure they were sleeping together. I tried to shield my brothers from it, but they're not dumb either. They tried talking to my dad, but he insisted that it wasn't like that. Then a few weeks ago, my mum started talking about all the places that she would like to visit, how she wanted a new car and was looking to invest, which is weird because my mum's been a bartender her whole life and has lived paycheck to paycheck since before I was born. She was acting like she was about to get a lot of money, which started to make me really suspicious. Between Jane being sick and my mum acting all nouveau riche, I had a lot of questions. Finally, I decided to visit Jane in the hospital and ask her about my trust fund. I found out that if anything happened to her, that my dad would inherit all of the money, including full control of the trusts for me and my brother. She asked me why I was so interested in the trust fund, so I told her what was going on with my parents and how my mum has been acting with my dad. I didn't want to, but after everything she did for me, she deserved the truth. It really hurt me to break her heart like that, especially once I found out that she was basically in hospice at this point because of irreversible kidney failure. She's only got a few more months. We both cried so much. Then, 2 days ago, everything came to a head. My mum stormed in, furious, and started arguing with my dad. Apparently, Jane met with her lawyer and changed the trust so that my dad would get nothing and all of the trusts would be controlled by my step-aunt. She demanded to know how Jane found out about their relationship, and I came out and told them that I told Jane everything. I told them that if they wanted to play stupid games, they would win stupid prizes, and that I wasn't going to let them screw Jane over after all of the help that she gave my family when she didn't have to. My mum slapped me, and my dad just looked so defeated. Then my mum told my dad that she didn't really love him, that she was just pretending to so that he would marry her, and that she could get all of the money. The worst part about it is that my brothers witnessed the whole thing, and now on top of their mum dying, they have to deal with a cheating dad and his vindictive ex. Our whole family is in ruins, and I feel like it's my fault, even though I know it's not. Yesterday, I visited Jane again and told her about the fallout. She apologized and said that she had to dissolve my trust fund to make sure that my mother didn't get a hold of the money, but that as her oldest, I will inherit the house/property after she is gone, and that is worth more than the other 2 trust funds combined. My father won't get anything because she's going to divorce him before she dies. And honestly, I'm happy for her. She made me promise to take care of my brothers, and told me that once I turn 18 this summer, I can kick my dad out of the house if I want to. And I fully plan to do that, by the way. I haven't talked to my dad since, and I can't even look at my mum. I can't believe they would conspire to do this to Jane after all this time. Just proof that they deserve each other, and I'm embarrassed that they're my parents. Once I turn 18, I'm going to cut my dad out as much as I can, and cut my mum out completely. I hope she rots. Meanwhile, I'm going to try and be at the hospital as much as I can until Jane passes away. Anyways, I just needed to vent. I'm really messed up about the whole thing, and I feel super betrayed. Although I can't even begin to imagine how Jane feels. I'm gonna be so effed up when she dies. I can't even think about that right now. But at least she's not surrounded by people who just want to bring her down. Thanks for reading. Edit. Some people are asking a lot of the same stuff, so I'll just clarify here. On my brothers, my plan is to use some of the estate money to fight for guardianship for my twin brothers so that they can live in the house while I kick my dad out. If I can't get guardianship, then I'll have to let my dad stay in the house. However, once I turn 18, I will technically be an adult, so even if my dad leaves, I'm still legally able to be responsible for them. The only thing I won't be able to do is stop him from taking them if he leaves. But they will be 18 in 6 years, so even if they do have to leave, they'll always be able to come back whenever they want. In a perfect world, my dad would just leave and let my brothers stay with me, which I'm sure my bio mum would be very supportive of, because right now she hates all of us, and I doubt that will change anytime soon. On the trust, from what I understand, my brothers will inherit 1/3 each of the estate, and the remaining 1/3 will be used to keep the house running until they turn 18. After that, it'll be up to me if I want to keep the house or sell it. At that point, my brothers will still have money left in the trust, so they can branch out or do whatever they want. Otherwise, I will not sell the house, and will just pass it on to them or keep it and maintain it myself, and they can just stay with me as long as they need to. Edit to the edit. So I just spoke to Jane, and she told me that the reason she dissolved the trust is because originally it was going to be split 3 ways between us kids, and that my dad would inherit the house. She dissolved my third and switched it over to make it to take care of the house maintenance, and instead put the house in my name so that my dad wouldn't get it. Plus, by doing that, at least financially, I would be getting a much bigger share. The house is worth about 1.5 times the amount of my brother's trusts. I just wouldn't be able to do anything with it until my brothers are 18, which I'm totally cool with. Sorry if I don't have a better answer, but I'm just trying to translate what she told me. On my parents, the big fight happened on Sunday, and I haven't spoken to either of my parents since. I think they're both at my mum's place right now, but that's fine with us, because we're all still mad at them, so they can stay gone for all we care. I know technically that's not legal to just leave us alone, but I've been taking care of my brothers for over a year. I can handle a few days while he gets his shit together. Screw both of them. Hope that clears some stuff up. And some additional information from OP on her parents, stepmom's health and trust funds. OP on why isn't Jane on dialysis. I don't remember the exact details, but Jane has a genetic condition where she gets cysts on her kidney. She already had a transplant a few years ago, but now she developed problems with her arteries or something in her legs, so she doesn't qualify for dialysis. She could get another transplant, but she doesn't want to because the last time was so traumatic, rejections, etc. So she decided to just let herself go onto the maintenance medications to prolong her death until she gets her affairs in order. She has a few other health problems that make the typical treatments really dangerous, and according to her, she would rather die surrounded by loved ones than on an operating table. On dissolving the trust fund, Jane told me that she didn't technically have to do it, but she didn't trust my bio parents not to do something shady and get a hold of the money before I turn 18. Even if my aunt controlled the fund, my dad would still be able to collect if something happened to Jane before I turn 18. Her lawyer suggested that it's better safe than sorry, and I agreed that it was the best option. I'm not an expert though, I don't know the details. On how my mum knew, like I said before, I'm pretty sure Jane told my dad, who then told my mum, and that's how the argument started. I can't think of any other way, and I didn't really care enough to ask. Jane's thoughts on my mum, she didn't know my mum was doing all of that. My mum has her own place and would only come over whenever Jane was in the hospital for a few days at a time. I've been living with my dad for a little over a year, so he probably told Jane that my mum was there to spend time with me, if he told her at all. Besides, she didn't move in until a few months ago, which I guess is when they started hatching their plan. Jane never outright banned my mum from visiting, so there really wasn't anything she could do. Hope that helps. And edit for the last part, the remainder of the money belonging to the estate that hasn't been put into the trusts for my brothers is going to be used to maintain the house until my brothers are 18, and then I can either choose to sell the house or keep it and maintain it myself if I'm able to. I plan to go to school in that time and get a better job with the goal of keeping the house, but if I can't, then I have the option to sell it. Not that I will, but that's how it was explained to me. OP on her stepmom and their relationship provides thoughts on her bio mum. Honestly, it's because she's more of a real mum than my actual mum. My bio mum is kind of ambiguous about my existence, but Jane was always extra involved, sending me to sports teams and paying for dance classes, and just showing interest in my hobbies as I got older. Plus, as the only girl, I think we bonded on a level that she can't with my brothers, so she always made sure to let me know that I was on equal terms with them. When I was younger, we would watch movies and have girl time where it was just us one-on-one, and those are some of my best memories with her. Jane is also really mature and someone that I want to be like when I get older, whereas it feels like my mum is a teenager in an adult's body. She was constantly picking fights with my dad about dumb things, and Jane was always there to smooth things over and keep my best interests at heart over her own feelings. I know my mum made Jane's life really difficult for a long time, but Jane never complained or said anything about it to me, whereas my mum constantly complained about Jane. As I got older, I just always felt more at peace when I was around Jane than when I was around my mum. If you want your stepkids to love you, just be there for them and treat them like your own. Ignore whatever drama you have with your husband's ex and just love your kids. Trust me, if you really care about them, they will know. And in the comments, Matt's DVS 1979 says, "My only advice is to make sure you work with a lawyer once she passes so you get your inheritance and your parents can't try to intervene. And then you keep your promise to use that money for you and your brother's welfare." And OP says, "Oh, absolutely. Jane already gave me the lawyer's information, and between him and my step-aunt, I'm sure I'll be able to do what I need to do for them. I don't even care about the money. Most people don't have trust funds and turn out just fine. I'm actually more glad that she gave me the house, because you can be damn sure it's going to be a safe space for my brothers, whether I end up getting custody of them or not. My brothers are basically Jane's legacy, so my goal is to give them the life and guidance that I got from her, and that they won't get because she'll be gone." And honestly, I think OP's doing the best they can, given the situation they've been put in. Her dad is a complete piece of shit. Obviously, her mum is even more of a piece of shit, and I think to anyone it would be obvious what she was up to. I don't understand why guys like her father are so gullible, in that, oh wow, all of a sudden she's changed her behavior, she must really love me. Like, no, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Please start applying that to everything in your life, man. And now, onto the update 3 months later. Hi guys, it's me again. A lot of you asked me for an update on my situation with Jane and my family, so I've come back with a few things that have happened since I initially posted. I'll try to organize this in a way that addresses the major points of last time. Jane is still alive and is doing surprisingly well considering the circumstances. She's always been a fighter, and although her disease has been progressing, she's keeping a positive attitude with everything that is going on. She says she's grateful that she was able to see everyone's true colors before she passed, so she could go into the next life knowing the truth. We have become so unbelievably close in the past few months, and it's getting harder and harder to know that she's getting close to the end. She doesn't ever talk about it though, and I know it's because she doesn't want to hurt me, but we both know the situation, so we're just making the best of our time. I'm also not being completely transparent about all of the drama at home, but to be honest, I don't think she needs to hear all of that. We did end up having that surprise celebration of life that I planned. A lot more people showed up than I thought, but they all got an Airbnb near the hospital where Jane is, and were able to take her out and spend some time at the lake near the facility. It was super low-key, which I know Jane preferred, and I was even able to get her old college friend to come after I found him on LinkedIn. We had food, and there was music, and we played games, and it was overall a really great time. Except Jane started crying at the end, but she promised me it was just because she was grateful. My brothers are also doing okay. My aunt, Jane's sister, is currently paying for them to go to therapy, and they've become a lot more open about talking about the situation. They just turned 13, but a lot of the time it feels like I'm talking to actual adults. They've become really independent lately, in a good way, and aside from me driving them places, I don't really have to do too much for them anymore. Their grades aren't super great, but they're not failing, and considering the circumstances, it could be a lot worse. They still hang out with friends, and I'm keeping an eye out for depression symptoms and stuff. The situation with my mum is as funny as it is embarrassing, to be honest. She spent a few weeks ignoring us, and then she tried to crawl back into my life, basically begging for me to let her move in because her lease is about to expire and she has nowhere to go. That conversation went about as well as you'd think, and she ended up calling me an ungrateful bitch and that I couldn't just ignore her because she's my mum. I told her to get out of the house before I call the cops and to go back to my dad, who at that point was only coming home every few days to check on us and grab some clothes. After that, she tried coming by a few times, and when I wouldn't open the door, she would lose her mind and start yelling throughout the neighborhood. After 3 instances of this, I finally called the cops, but because I'm 17, they told me there's a possibility that I would have to go home with her since technically I'm a minor and need to be with a custodial parent. I told them no way, because I was the only one watching my brothers at the moment. That led to a whole thing where after a few hours, my dad basically showed up and I was allowed to stay there because there was finally an adult present and I'd basically lived there for over a year. After that, the cops firmly told my mum that if she keeps showing up and causing drama, my neighbors confirmed that she'd been there a few times screaming, that they would arrest her for trespassing, since technically it was Jane's house and not hers. She left and hasn't tried coming to the house anymore, but for a while, she would call me, constantly telling me that I owed her all kinds of stuff. She's now blocked on everything, and anything she needs to say to me gets filtered through my dad. As for my dad, well, since he's basically required to be here for another 2 months until I turn 18, we've basically just avoided each other. It's not too bad though, because I've been heavily relying on guilting him for everything to get my way. For example, he was going to contest the divorce, but I threatened to kick him out when I turn 18 if he does that, so he just signed all of the paperwork for a quickie divorce, and is basically doing whatever Jane tells him to do. I don't openly disrespect him or anything, because he's still my dad, but I've made it clear that I have no intentions on doing anything that he says ever again, and he doesn't fight me on it. Most of the time he's just in his room, and sometimes he'll go back to my mum's, but only for a day or 2 before they argue and she kicks him out again. I haven't decided whether or not I'll kick him out yet, and we haven't talked about it either, so I'm kind of playing it by ear. As for me, I'm handling everything as good as I can. I found a new job where I make a little more money, so I've been focusing on saving as much as I can and just being there for my brothers. Between working and school and visiting Jane, I've been so busy I haven't really had time to really just stop and think about everything. But I know that it'll come. One of my friends has really stepped up and helped manage everything, and I'm super grateful to him for being there for me and my brothers, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, I wish I had something more exciting to share, but that's what's happened since my last post. Thanks again for all of the support on my last post. In the comments, OP on the possibility of her stepmom being poisoned from her parents to get Jane's money. A few people have mentioned this, and yes, we are absolutely certain that she is not being poisoned. It's a genetic disease causing her kidney failure, and we've known about it for a long time, but she shielded us from the worst of it, hence why her sudden decline in health was such a shock to us. We thought she had more time. My brothers have also been screened for this disease, and thankfully none of them have it. Edit to add, I'm turning 18 in a few weeks, so I don't need to get emancipated, and my dad has already agreed that my brothers will stay in the house with me because they have nowhere else to go. OP on Jane making video clips for her brothers. Yes, actually a few people suggested this on my last post, and we've been doing this for a few weeks now. Jane has a little digital recorder that she's been putting her thoughts down on, and she's also written a few letters for us for major milestones. My brothers do not know about this, as we want to surprise them, but that said, they've been coming to the hospital more now that they're in therapy and are able to deal with it. I know they do not want to have any regrets, even though it's a difficult situation. And OP on her father after being exposed, and her bio-mum trying to manipulate him, I do think he's remorseful. He hasn't said it, but the way he's acting is telling me that. He's being really passive when normally he gets a little belligerent if he really feels like he didn't do anything wrong. Also, I know I have every reason to kick him out, but he's still my dad, even though what he did to Jane was terrible. He's just kind of a weak-minded person, and my bio-mum really manipulated the crap out of him and continues to manipulate him. But I can tell he's getting tired of her BS because he's spending less time with her. He didn't know that she was showing up at the house, and when he found out, he was super pissed at her. They've been fighting non-stop, and I can tell that he's not as much under her spell anymore, because he's at home more, but who knows. And now, onto the final update, 7 months later. Hello everyone, it's me again. I've gotten quite a few messages in the past months asking for an update, so I'm going to post my final update here and hope that it's enough to answer the questions everyone has been asking. I'm sorry that it took so long to update, but a lot has been going on. As many of you may already assume, Jane passed away early fall of this year. It was very traumatic and very sudden, but the silver lining is that she exceeded every doctor's expectation for her life, and when she did go, she was surrounded by family, including me, my brothers, and my dad. She was on palliative care and felt no pain, except for a brief moment right at the end, and we are all very grateful for that. Towards the end, Jane was physically pretty much done, but her mind was as sharp as ever. I took the advice of many of you here and recorded some voice notes for my brothers. I originally wanted to do video, but by the time we were able to do it, we both decided they didn't need to remember her wrapped in tubes and in a hospital gown. She also wrote many letters to her friends, family, and even for me to open when I reached certain milestones. She gave me one to open right after she passed away, and while I won't share too many details, I can say with absolute certainty that she is, and forever will be, who I consider my mother without question. It was very, very emotional for everyone, and although it has been a few months, I am still very heartbroken about her no longer being with us. She was a kind, gentle woman, and in my heart, she is who I aspire to be. My brothers are obviously very hurt about our mum dying, but just like before, they're taking it surprisingly well. They are still going to therapy both together and separately, and we have a lot of conversations whenever they feel like talking. We've always been close, but I feel like we're closer now, even though I work and hang out as often as we can, and I'm doing everything I can to be the support that they need. They don't know it, but I definitely need them as much as they need me, because they're the only ones I can really talk to about anything. Ironically, now that our family glue is gone, we're pulling together stronger than before. My dad and I mended the fences, so to speak. We went to a few therapy sessions together where he took full responsibility for his behavior, and I've forgiven him as much as I can, especially since he eventually started doing everything he could to be there for Jane at the end, even though they still went through with the divorce. He's still living with us, and things are a little bit tense, but they're doing much better than before. He's my dad, and I love him, but he was also broken by Jane's condition, and he wasn't able to cope in a healthy manner. Her dying really brought some light into his eyes, so to speak, and now he's really stepping up to be the man that he was supposed to be. A lot of people commented saying too little too late, but again, he's my dad, and for my own mental health, I have chosen to forgive him. As far as I know, my bio mum pretty much vanished off the face of the earth when I turned 18. She tried a few times to convince me to let her live with us, but I wasn't having any of it. Even my dad told her he's officially done, and after we all blocked her on everything, she stopped reaching out. She doesn't have any relatives who talk to her, so I don't have to worry about that. But I did hear from people who follow her on Facebook that she has a new boyfriend that she is living with. I don't want to stalk her or anything. I really don't care. She hasn't come to me with any kind of apology, so to be honest, she can get bent. It's a little bit hard for me to think that she would just walk away the second I turned legal just because she didn't get any of Jane's money, but oh well, true colors and all that. Guess 18 years was too long to pretend to care. I'm just so angry with her that I don't want anything to do with her anymore. Maybe that'll change one day, but I'm not holding my breath. As for me, I'm doing pretty okay. I decided to take a year before I start college to handle all of this bullshit, and I'm still at my same job, so I'm saving up money wherever I can. My friends have all been great supporters, and I'm so grateful for everyone, especially you Reddit folks, who have been checking in on me and making sure that I'm okay. I'm taking things one day at a time, and that's been working great to keep me focused. My goal is to go to college next year and study journalism, but I'm playing it by ear. I can always go back to school, but right now my family needs me, and if that takes longer than a year, then so be it. Thank you, everyone. This will be my last update, and I very much appreciate all of the love and support that you've shown our family. Jane, I know, was very grateful for all of you too, and all I can say is hold your loved ones tight and be careful of anyone who seems too good to be true. Much love and blessings to you all. In the comments, someone says that OP should make sure her father is in therapy in order to deal with the unresolved issues he has. And OP says, I understand why you would feel this way, but the therapy is ongoing. He's actually insisting on it, and he's going to individual therapy as well. We all are. The goal isn't to quote-unquote fix him, as much as it is to help us all cope with each other and what happened. I think Jane dying broke us all in a way that won't ever be fixed. Someone else says, I think looking from the outside in, it's easy to hate the dad. He did something awful and basically got away with it. He got rid of the crazy ex, still has his daughter, and gets to live in the house of the woman he severely betrayed. I understand OP, and I don't know if I'd have the heart to kick my dad out and stay mad, but it's still a sour ending for me. Because of the dad, Jane's final moments were tainted. I mean, the woman was on the brink of death having to deal with a divorce. She deserved better, and the one who harmed her just gets to move on. OP says, if it's any consolation, Jane and my dad made their peace a few weeks before she died. Yes, he did something awful to her, but they were in love for many, many years. And that doesn't just go away because of one trifling bitch. So I wouldn't say her final moments were tainted. She wanted him there, and he was there, and I think she passed knowing that she was loved by everyone present. My dad definitely took her passing really hard to a point where I know that it's not an act. I think that's worth something. Plus, he's going to carry this guilt around until the day he dies. Another commenter says, please make sure your dad knows not to bring women around your house, just in case. You and your brothers do not need to see him date anytime soon, and definitely not in his ex-wife's house. And OP replies, trust me, after this he's not interested in dating anymore. He really loved our mum, and after my bio mum pulled her bullshit, I think he's completely done. He's got a lot to recover from too, which I think a lot of people forget. Not only did he lose his wife of 15 years, but he fell for the lies of someone he thought loved him too and trusted someone who ended up hurting him and his kids. I know he feels terrible about the whole thing, which makes it easier to forgive him. And the last commenter asks, who has control over the money that Jane left for her children? Does your father have access to it? Is it possible that his attitude only changed because he's expecting to gain access to the money that Jane left? He might still be secretly involved with your biological mum and only pretending to change his behavior as a way to get closer to Jane's money. And OP says, for a while I did honestly think this. However, shortly after Jane died, I found out he was looking into apartments to move into. When I confronted him about it, he said that he was trying to be respectful and assumed that I wouldn't want to have anything to do with him, so he was preparing just in case. I think the fact that he wasn't parading his plan around in front of me to try and get brownie points says a lot. That and the fact that he's been very involved in our therapy gives me a lot of hope. I understand a lot of people have had bad experiences, but like I've been saying, my dad isn't a bad person, he's just stupid. I don't know, I just feel really bad for Jane in this story. Like, she didn't deserve that. She constantly got the short end of the stick towards the end of her life. Jane deserved so much better from those that she trusted and loved and didn't get it. That just really sucks. Jane did win in the end because she has OP. She had a great support system in OP. And I know that OP will continue Jane's legacy, not only through her own life, but through her brother's as well. I'm glad that she was able to pass surrounded by a loving family, even if I don't deem OP's father as that much of a loving influence because of his actions. I too wish that I could have as beautiful a passing as Jane got in the end. And I know a lot of people were telling OP to cut her father out of her life, but, I don't think that's the answer. She's already lost one parent extremely close to her, and the father wasn't always that bad, I'm going to assume. When you're dealing with the loss of one parent, I don't know if cutting off the other parent, as bad as he may be, is going to help you. I hope he is genuinely remorseful. I do hope that he recognizes everything he's done and changes for the better. His short-sightedness was just so insane, like betraying his dying wife and then permanently damaging the relationship with his kids. Is it worth it? I get that people deal with grief and loss in certain ways. But surely that is not the way to deal with it, to do so much damage in such a short amount of time. Also, for the fact that all these parents gave up their parenting duties and continually abandoned the household, making OP the sole provider, the sole parent for these children. Jane couldn't be there to look after her kids, and OP's dad refused to be there for his 3 kids. What is up with that? It was like it was no big deal. He just ran off to have his little dream life with his ex-wife. I know parentification is going to happen regardless. Like, if he wasn't a piece of shit, he would be in hospital looking after his dying wife. I think in that situation that would be understandable. But he just did another double whammy of complete evil. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. That was quite a lot, and I hope that things get better for you in the future. You do deserve so much better than what you've been put through, that's for sure. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.